Please welcome to the stage writer, actor, and producer Issa Rae with Bloomberg's Ashley Carman.
Hey, y'all. Thank you. Hello. Hey, perfect. We on strike. My bad. Thank you.
Wow, I love it.
Me too.
So everyone in this audience is well aware of your incredible career, but just to set the stage a little bit. So you got your start with a web series posted to YouTube, which eventually led to an amazing run as the creator and star of Insecure. Then you, obviously this summer, had this amazing role in Barbie. And you have Rap Shit Season 2 coming out in November on Max. And on top of all that, if it wasn't enough, you also, in 2020, started Hooray Media, which is a media company focused on film and TV, as well as radio and audio company, FET for marketing, and Color Creative for talent representation. Which is a lot of stuff. So can you actually just give us the vision? Like, why have all those businesses under one umbrella?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I'm so happy to be here. Hello, everybody. It started as a natural extension of the businesses that I'd already started. So naturally, you know, I'm a writer, producer, and film and television has been the goal forever. And then even in doing a project like Insecure, I was constantly approached by labels to have a record deal. And I was like, oh, do they not watch the show? I'm not a good rapper. And that didn't interest me. And then someone was like, well, what if you had a label? And given that I was so heavy into the music supervision aspect of Insecure and learning along the way from the brilliant Keira Lehman, who was our music supervisor, to me, and also given our work with discovering emerging talented writers and artists in general, I was like, oh, I would love to do that on the music side. And so having a music label and building a music company and a music supervision company via radio made so much sense. Something like Color Creative came about just from my web to television model and wanting to replicate that. And it started off becoming a pilot program to discover new writers and produce their pilots for the cheap, get audiences excited about it, and then ultimately take it for a network. And then we were meeting all these writers and introducing them to managers and agents, and they would always come back to be like, hey, you got us these opportunities. I'm not really feeling my representation. And so we were like, we're doing so much of the work, let's build this out. And so many of the businesses that I have, brand and FET, which came about with the brand marketing, you know, right now it's so essential for creators to kind of take the reins of telling their own stories in the brand space. And so given that we were also already doing that, we just wanted to build that out as well. So they're all natural progressions of things that already exist, and then implementing the team members to make it possible.
Yeah, like I mentioned, you started Hooray in 2020. Obviously, peak pandemic times, but people were at home streaming more than ever. And looking forward here, we're at 2023. It's been a wild year for the film and TV industry. I'm just curious, like, to hear your perspective on the state of the industry. How has your expectations for your business changed as the industry has changed since then?
Woo, yeah, you touched on a lot there, and specifically, you know, this year, and even before the strikes happened, there was a clear industry shift that was very visible to me in terms of just even what was going to continue to be produced. And I think, for me, I've always just looked at it from the perspective of someone who makes TV and film, and I guess content in general, that focuses and prioritizes Black people, Black audiences. And to me, that's why I came into this space, and that's where a lot of my passion lies. And so I've seen ebbs and flows of the industry, and I got to be a part of a renaissance in, you know, post-Scandal and in 2015 with all these other creators of color being able to make stuff for audiences that craved that work. And so post-strike, given that there are going to be now less film and television shows made, and there's it's just very clear to me who's going to be left out of that. And that's not the first time that it's happened. When I think about, even the advent of cable and how networks were just like, we are losing our audiences. Our audiences are fragmented, so let's go broad. And broad always means white. And so I can see that happening again. But I think the difference now would hopefully be there are people in positions of power, people of color in positions of power that can greenlight, but they're all getting fired too. So that, to me, is like my pessimistic kind of fear of the state of the industry. But I remain committed to that focus, and I think we're all talking and we're all a little bit smarter now, and so hopefully history won't repeat itself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with this business, you are still at the whims of the studios and what they want to greenlight. So,
Absolutely.
And you see this coming. So how do you get ahead of it? Are you having conversations with people in the space?
Having lots of conversations. I also don't want to be in a position again where I'm kind of at the mercy of studios in that way. And so, like I've always wanted to be, I've always wanted to be in a position where I could like fund my own projects and the projects of other people that I believe in. And so for us, like that is a North Star to just be able to have, content funds. My ultimate goal is to have a studio, and it's just trying to build the building blocks to make that happen. So yes, conversations are being had, and we'll see.
How's funding going?
How's funding? You got some money?
Obviously.
That's yeah. Where we're at.
On the state of the changing industry, obviously Insecure's on Netflix now. Mm-hmm. Big shift. I was just curious if that's some decision that you had any say in.
Ooh, can I speak to that? No.
No, you had no say, or no, you can't speak to it.
I'm gonna let you put that up for interpretation. I don't know what's safe to say, but yeah.
How do you feel about that decision?
I was thrilled, honestly. I was thrilled that it went to Netflix. I think, any opportunity that allows us to have a wider audience, and it, went in a lot of territories that didn't have access to Insecure before, and even just like internationally, obviously, people got exposed to it, but then also people just who didn't have HBO and who had no plans to get HBO. So in that way, I was just like, oh, a whole new generation, a whole new audience of people gets to watch the show for the first time, and I thought that was really cool.
Do you have any sense of how it's performing? Like, do you get any of that?
No, I don't have access to any of that, and I think that's also, why these strikes are so important. Like we're fighting for access to data and transparency, and who knows where that will lead. But yeah, the short answer is no.
Do you feel like with the writers, at least agreement so far, do you feel like that went far enough for data transparency, or do you want even more?
I'm optimistic, but we'll see where the actors land, just in terms of what they have access to. But I think that this is going to be an evolving process. We don't know what we don't know, and I have faith in the negotiating committee, like for what they fought for. It feels like, it was announced that this was unprecedented. But part of me is also, the business side of me is worried, because even with something like Insecure, and worried is the wrong word, but I'm just like, oh, what is this gonna be like? But with something like Insecure, the HBO execs were just like, we just want you to make stuff, and we don't have to worry about ratings, and we got a chance to grow. And so I do come from I don't have the pressure of the metrics of high ratings. We just were able to make things. And so now with the transparency, of course, there's going to be more pressure for your show to do well and to meet these quotas and these numbers. And that's not different from the 90s when you had the Nielsen ratings, which were like, you were put on blast, like, oh, your show is number 92 and you're canceled. So if we're going back to that, fine, but then, there's more pressure to make hits.
Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side, the story of Suits has been such a big one, where obviously it found so much success on Netflix. And I've just wondered, if something like that happens with Insecure, like what you stand to gain from it. Is it the audience? Is it money? Is it all of the above? Is it?
That's a good question, because even what's been negotiated is for new shows, right? So I don't know where I stand, but right now I can say that I'd be excited about audience exposure, possibly bitter at like, oh, I could have, if we had just waited a couple more years, I could have been like, good, you know. But I don't have access to that information yet either.
You've obviously
And I'm sure the Suits people are pissed too, like, right? So we would be in the same company. Maybe we'll have sad parties together.
You've done a lot of business with HBO. I just wanted to ask what you think of the name change.
I think it's, I'm not gonna lie, like I was initially like, what are y'all doing? But I do like that Max incorporates everything, and I think that there's something nice about HBO being a tab within that. I think Max allows for more diversity, just in terms of what you're watching, and less pressure there. In the same way that, something, I know that they don't like to be compared, but it's inevitable. But something like Netflix, you know that you're getting a variety of options. And yeah, I would say that to me, it's just more about the platform and knowing that HBO is its own branded thing. It allows HBO to have an identity and not necessarily be diluted by other things.
So you don't feel that has been compromised yet?
HBO?
Yeah.
I think people know what it is. I think that people know, as long as the brand identity remains and they remain kind of steadfast in their mission to champion writers and storytellers. I think that team over there is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about the strikes. The writer's strike is resolved. Screen actors are still striking. What do you want to see in an actor's contract? What do you want to, I guess, and even more generally, like, what do you think needs to change in Hollywood?
Yeah, I mean, I know that like wages haven't been adjusted for inflation, residuals, can be improved, and I think obviously the AI issue is very terrifying. The idea that your likeness could be used without your consent it's horrifying. That's all we have. That's what I bring to the table, and you can use it and manipulate it how you feel. I think that's absolutely unacceptable, and it feels like a Black Mirror episode in that way. And I think that has to give. Like, there just has to be consent for your likeness, and I think the closer we can get to a compromise there, because with AI you can also create fake people at the same time. So is it a matter of saying, an actor can only be a human being that can be paid, and is that the result? But then technically, is that feasible? Because I've seen instances where you're like, oh, you have a crowd of extras and you need to just kind of duplicate it and fill it in. And I've seen that in movies, and I've seen that done before, and that could be cost efficient. But then is it a matter of saying, okay, now extras get paid, 4 times as much as their likeness was used? So I say generally, I just want parity, and I think the transparency on that side to be able to participate in the success of your show, that only makes a lot of sense to me.
And you obviously are facing AI from 2 sides. You have the actor side, but also you're a writer, and scripts, ChatGPT could train on your scripts. I guess, how are you feeling about that threat? And do you feel like that agreement in the writer's contract goes far enough to protect you and others?
Again, I think that's going to be an ongoing process. We're going to see how it's used, and we're going to see how competing companies, a lot of the conversation right now has been around tech companies and like making sure that, while we have agreements with studios for them to use AI kind of to experiment and to only credit writers for scripts, we don't have those same things with tech companies. So I did see, was that today? No, that was more on the SAG AI of it in terms of the bill that was just passed. But for tech companies, what's going to stop them from being able to take scripts and train AI to make movies on their side? Because they're not technically studios. They don't have a a guild agreement. And I think more just needs to be done in that way. Studios and the guilds can team up against a lot of these tech companies.
And on the writer's side, there's now a new minimum number of writers for shows required, and we just talked about budgets tightening. And as someone who wants to start, funding and making your own shows, how does that affect, you, an independent person who's trying to make programming and having to staff? Like, do you have to do more with less as far as the money goes, or can you get bigger budgets, you think?
Can I get bigger?
Well, I guess I'm saying, if you were greenlit, would you be able to get a bigger budget, you think, to account for this, or are you going to have to do more with less? And as an independent, are you going to have to, think more strategically about how you run the business, I guess?
Fortunately, on this side, I can say, like, I need this number of writers, and we need this level of experience to make this show possible. As an independent creator, like, I would be held to the standards of the guild and make that work. And especially having been on the other side, like, I didn't know going into this that staff writers didn't get paid for their scripts, which is absurd. That's crazy, And I see the work firsthand that goes into creating these works, and so I would never short-sight that for, like, minimal profits at the end of the day. It's not that serious to me. I have so much faith and respect for the work that writers do. So as an independent producer, we'd find a way to cut costs elsewhere, I guess.
Yeah. We're shockingly at time, but I want you to shout out Rap Shit if you can and talk about the new season.
Oh yeah, Rap Shit is coming out. I can talk about it as a writer because I'm not in it, but it's coming out the second season November 9th. And this season is really, really, really great, and I'm so excited for people to see it. I'm so excited for people to see the work that went into it. It was hard as hell to produce this season, but I'm look out for it. And thank you guys. Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank y'all.